Staff Hearing Officer, and I'm calling the meeting of Wednesday, October 21st to order. Today we have 3 items on our agenda, and I'm not aware of any changes. Is there? No? Okay, we've had one appeal since the last hearing. It's 741 through 781 Chapala Street. It was a medical cannabis dispensary permit, and it's tentatively scheduled for December in PC. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to address the Staff Hearing Officer on items not on our agenda? No, see no one. We'll go to the first item, which is a consent item. It's 118 Arbolado Road. This is our, you can go ahead and come up. This is our first consent item. I was just going to open the public hearing, see if anybody's here who wants to address the Staff Hearing Officer and go from there. Okay?
All right.
It's actually a request to permit some window changes in portions of a non-conforming building. And so is there anybody here who would like to address the Staff Hearing Officer on this item? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. We haven't received any letters on this one, have we? Mm-hmm. No? Okay.
Oh, well, Paula, I think.
Is that one to me or to?
Well, Secretary Paula Westbrook.
I'm sorry, I couldn't read the addresses.
Yeah, no, this one's on Clearview, so 1429 Clearview.
Oh, okay.
So I went to the site visit. I reviewed the project. I think it's.
But I can't read the letter.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, it does say A1108.
1108 Arbolada.
Yeah. "30 buildings on windows." I just see it's a bunch of statements, so I'm not sure. So we've received one letter from Paula Westbury just on expressing comments on the project. So like I started to say, I went to the site. I've read the staff report. I agree with staff's recommendations for approval. I can make the findings in the staff report. I do want to just note that in the findings that an additional reason why it's supportable is that the total area of all the windows within the setback isn't exceeded. So that's just an added statement to the findings.
Okay.
So with that, I approve the project. It is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. And they also have oversight authority of all my actions, and if this warrants community-wide discussion, they could call that up. I'm not sure window changes will.
Okay.
But if that were to occur, Ms. Malazzo would contact you.
Okay, great.
Okay?
All right, excellent. That's easy. Thank you.
Okay. The next project is 1429 Clearview Road. If the applicant would like to come up. Anytime you're ready.
Alrighty. Yeah, the project site located on Clearview is a 5,000 square foot lot, zoned R1, currently developed with a 2-car garage below a 2-story residence that sits on top. Like many of the project sites in this neighborhood on this particular side of the street, the lot is developed up close to the street with extremely steep slopes at the rear. This particular property had an overall slope of 32% over its backyard area. The homeowners have in the past made improvements to that backyard, installing retaining walls, interior, improving landscape areas in order to utilize a backyard that was virtually useless in its original configuration. They have come through the process at this time to legalize the installations as they exist. It is staff's position, although we tend to discourage the use of the modification process for the legalization of illegal work, that the improvements that were done on this property actually do secure an appropriate improvement and allow these homeowners to enjoy a backyard as intended by the ordinance. As a part of their proposal, which involves landscaped area here and then a flattened area here that's heavily landscaped and improved with outdoor amenities, and then stairs up to a wooden deck underneath a tree where an in-grade spa has been installed. They have agreed to removal of the elevated deck in this area, which was installed in excess of 10 inches in height within the required yard. The area shown faintly highlighted here is the area requesting modification approval to allow terraces in excess of 36 inches within the required open yard area.
So it's the actual terrace versus the walls that are there? Or the
The walls
combination
are
of the two?
creating the terraces.
Okay. All right, great, thank you. If you'd like to state your name for the record and add any additional information?
Yeah, my name is Amy Sachs, and I might make mention there was no way to get any machinery back in that lot, just so you know. So everything was done by hand. So that's maybe one reason why walls are a little over 36 inches. So
That's it?
that's it.
Okay. I'd like to open the public hearing. I do have a request to speak from Jim Marshall. If you'd like to come up and have a seat at the table here.
And then you'll also mention the support from the two immediate neighbors. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi. My concern, I live at 1215 West Mitchell-Terena, and my concern is the privacy issue. Also, another neighbor is here as well. And the only issue we really have is the elevated deck. The use of the backyard, we all live on hills. I mean, we all live on the same hill, and we'd love to have more use of our yard too, but it's a hill. So we're stuck with it. But the only problem we see is the deck is elevated up so that when people are standing on it, they look over into the other yard. And the last hearing, I think there were 2 board members that were in favor of lowering the deck.
And you're just talking about the single-family design board hearing?
Yes. Yeah, there were 2 board members who said that they could see a fix if the deck was lowered, and one said that he just would not approve the project.
Okay, and the minutes do indicate consider lowering the deck or provide landscaping to screen. So he did give the option.
Landscaping is not a permanent thing, and should they decide to move, if someone else comes in, they can do whatever they want. There's nothing to hold them to that. That's our concern. That's also the other neighbor's concern. The deck is elevated so that anyone standing on it, even children, can see over the fence. And that looks directly into their master bedroom. We are affected, not so much as they are, but we have picture windows across the side of our house, and it looks directly out there. And a hillside slopes down, and when people move in, they realize that they're living on a hillside and that they're at the bottom of the hill. And so everyone would like to build up so they can see over their house or get better views or whatever. But, you know, you're kind of stuck with your neighbors too. And in this particular project, I went down there when I learned that they were building something, and I asked them what they were going to build, and I was told it was just retaining walls and irrigation to further use their backyard, which I have no problem with. And then all of a sudden the deck popped up. And the deck, like I said, it's an elevated deck. It looks over the fence. And unless it's lowered, it's always going to do that.
Okay, and I do want to remind the staff hearing officer that the deck is not up for review. It does comply with the current zoning regulations. It observes 5-foot setbacks off of both interior lot lines, and it's not up for our review today. We do encourage good neighbor relationships by trying to work together so that your privacy is provided but not impacting yours.
Right.
Can I say something? Would an 8-foot fence be better? Which is totally legal. I mean, an 8-foot fence. Because right now it's a 5-foot fence, and the hedge kind of comes up above it. But that would be a more
8 foot?
permanent.
Is the regulation height?
I was too late to fill out a card, so I felt
I'll ask if there's more people, that's fine. All right, is that the remainder of your comments?
Yeah. Well, I guess then a question for procedure is, since you don't review the deck, and since 2 board members did say that they wanted to see the deck lowered, who is...
Yeah, I can respond to that. I'll respond to your comments, and then I'll listen to your
Okay.
other neighbor, and then
Sure.
give direction.
Okay.
Okay? Great, thank you. That's fine if you want to come up and provide your comments and then fill out a speaker slip for the record beforehand, if you'd like to.
Whichever works.
And then the neighbor that lives here?
That's this gentleman here.
Okay.
He lives here. And the gentleman
If
who
you
just
wanna
spoke,
come
he
up
lives back here.
And then fill that out later, that's fine.
Well, hearing what I've heard, I know the deck is sort of a con issue, but my main interest overall is being diplomatic and getting along,
Right.
and not making you feel like we're attacking. It's just, when we moved in the place, there's an upper deck and a lower that's by our bedroom. The upper one we knew was below their house. Right away knew that it's not going to be the most private area, but right outside our bedroom was extremely private, and that has been the biggest impact. I mean, the hedging now is cutting off some view that we had, but for me that's a great compromise because you get a great area out there.
Well,
to
and if
sit.
there's a part of the hedge that's bothering you that would not compromise your privacy or mine, I'm happy to lower. If there's something, because I know you have like this squeaky little view kind of right down in this area here, and if that hedge is too high along this side wall, I'd be happy to lower that a bit if that
Right,
makes
yeah,
it
and I knew we
better
could talk
for
about
you.
that, and you
Yeah.
had said that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think my main thing is just if somehow the deck was enclosed a little more than it is, something more permanent than the foliage. It does move, and it doesn't
Right.
feel as private. It's I
'Cause-
could give an idea. It's
Because the fence is 5. If we went it up to 8, that gives 3 more feet of privacy.
yeah, I just thought the
for
whole fence
view.
is a bigger project
Well,
than some kind of trellising or something on just the rail where the people go up. That's
So
the area where they
trellis.
hit it.
I mean, is that legal to add some trellising along? I'm fine with that. That vines and there's something that grows. But again, that's less permanent. A fence is a little more permanent. I'm looking out for what you really want. You
Well,
know.
yeah, fence is an investment on that
Yeah.
hill, especially because it is a hill. They're
Yeah.
going to have to be creative. And so I don't know, whatever worked best for you is my main thing. Our biggest concern is just that upper deck. It is, no matter how much people try, you still feel that they're there. A bird's eye line from our door to the deck is about 30 feet. So it's not a whole lot of just distance. And I don't know, it's a strange effect. I'll have to have you come over and sit there. And
Okay.
just as soon as they hit the top rail, it's like the Titanic just pulled up to the fence.
Did you state your name for the record?
I'm sorry, my name is Neil, N-E-I-L, Murphy. We're at 1211 West Mitchell Trail.
Okay, did you have any comments to add on in regards to the flat area? It's just mainly the privacy of the raised deck.
Correct, which isn't a huge issue. It's the hedging they've done. I wouldn't want to see it too much higher, but it's done.
It has to stay at 8 feet. I
Yeah,
have
and
to
it needs
keep
to
at
fill
8
in.
feet. A little thicken up.
It's just, it's thicker. But that has been a great solution on that. Like I said, our main issue has just always been the upper one. And we tried to not keep it an issue just because we do want to be
Yeah.
good neighbors. We plan to be there for a long time. It's the 21st, correct?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, then I'd like to also note that I received 3 letters on this project. One from Paula Westbury, who is against the project, and then 2 others from neighbors, Charles Kinzel and Rose Ewing, both in support of the project. I went out to the site and looked at it, and I share the neighbors' concerns regarding the elevated deck and the loss of privacy, but it's not before me today. The zoning ordinance requires one area of 1,250 square feet, a minimum dimension of 20 by 20, so they've indicated this area here as their required open yard area, and within this area there's a wall with terracing. So technically what's before me in terms of zoning is just this area right here. However, if the deck was within the open yard area, I don't believe that it would be appropriate encroachment given the elevation of it and the impacts to the adjacent neighbors. But that conforms to zoning, like Ms. Malazzo said, in that it's not within the setbacks. So it could go, per zoning, it can go as high as actually 30 feet, which it wouldn't because it's outside of the setbacks. So what the issue is before the Single Family Design Board. So with the concerns regarding privacy, that's an issue that would be dealt with through the Single Family Design Board and their good neighbor policies, and whether they decide to actually require it to be lowered or to have additional screening. A raised fence is a good compromise because that is more permanent than landscaping. Landscaping provides the problem typically when I see it along the front property line because landscaping likes to grow, and then that impacts the views and all that. So some kind of permanent solution, but that's not before me today. It's the on-grade terracing and or the new on-grade terracing because it's a new grade with the walls. So I can make the findings outlaid in the staff report. However, I want to make changes to those findings because they do reference that wood deck, which is not within my purview. And clarify that what I'm looking at is the retaining wall and terraced area. So what it would read is, the staff hearing officer finds that the modification to allow the retaining wall and terraced area to exceed 36 inches in height within the open yard is consistent with the purposes and intent of the zoning ordinance and is necessary to secure an appropriate improvement on the lot. So in that sentence, I added the retaining wall and terrace. And then the next one's when I take out the reference to the wooden deck, it'll say the modification allows for a level outdoor living space for a lot that previously had none. And then the last sentence would be the retaining wall and on-grade terrace area would the retaining wall and on-grade terraced area would not cause impacts to adjacent neighbors. Okay? So with that, you have an approval. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. And then they also have oversight authority of all the actions, and if they believe this warrants additional discussion before them, if they raise some policy issue or community-wide issue, they also have the ability to call up the actions during that same 10-day appeal period. And so if either of those instances would occur, Ms. Malazzo would contact you.
Okay.
Okay?
Is there something we could decide to put in a fence right now that
When you go back to this Single-Family Design Board, I would bring that up, have that as part of your proposal, that you remove and replace the existing fence with an 8-foot. That would, going into the hearing, being open to that might be a good idea.
Okay.
They need to review it, and you'll be notified, so you can review those plans prior to the board taking action on it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just give you both of these.
Thank you.
And,
Yeah.
The next project is 1562 La Vista del Oceano. If the applicant would like to come up.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Pardon me? Oh, that's okay. I'll fill that out.
Beautiful morning.
Anytime you're ready.
Thank you. This project site, just under 20,000 square feet and located up at La Vista del Oceano. The green line shows the outline of the property, but we want to point out that there's a large access easement up to houses to the north. Current development on this site consists of a 2-story single-family residence here. Access to the 2 required covered parking spaces are under here. What's happened on this property, in 1987, there were field changes done during the time of construction to shift the house 2 feet would this be to the east, without benefit of modification. It resulted in the house being located within the 10-foot interior setback. This application, which involves a major remodel and architectural change to the existing structure, is asking to legalize the portions of the house that now exist within that 2-foot setback and to make a couple alterations. There's an installation of 2 windows. I'll show you the elevations in a moment. There's a alteration to an existing window. The applicant is proposing to remove a pretty large portion of deck here and stairs that are currently on grade right up to the property line. And it's just asking for a new stair which would allow access down to a lower level. So there's no congregation occurring here. It's just simply to get you off the upper level down to the driveway. Staff is supporting this request, and that is very minor in nature. It does not result in intensifications of use, new floor area, or presumed impacts to future development on the adjacent vacant lot. And if we can just look at the elevation, I highlighted the elevation changes that require modification approval. This window, which currently looks like this, going to have some changes. This portion of the building is a part that is currently located in the setback. 2 small windows here being added into the lower living area. And then again, this stairwell, all this deck being removed and just stairwell to access. There are alterations occurring and a reduction to an existing upper level deck. I'm not sure if this is in the setback. It was difficult to determine on the elevations. It might be, so we'll just include that in. It's an alteration on the non-conforming portion. And actually it's not non-conforming, the portion that currently exists within the setback without modification approval. So again, staff feels these approvals are just a part, or these alterations are just a part of the approvals being proposed for the property and do not change or intensify the encroachment that currently exists.
Okay, great, thank you. Great, if you'd like to state your name for the record. And
My name is David Lane, and I'm here representing Zarin and Associates, and our clients are Vikram and Sandra Verma. And you have to forgive me, I've never been to one of these meetings. So what is expected of me as, do I answer your questions? Or she's
if there's any-
pretty much described everything that we're doing. I can assure you that that small Juliet balcony is inside the lot from the setback. It's right on the setback line. But if we can get, I can ask you this, if we can get approval for that, can we make it larger and encroach it into the setback? Not that I...
no, it wasn't noticed as a second-story encroachment.
And just for your information,
Third story.
staff typically would not support a second-story area
Yeah,
that
I-
encourages congregation
yeah.
because of the privacy impacts.
I understand, and that's why we've
Good.
suggested this portion of the deck is actually below grade, below existing grade, or becomes on grade as it gets to this area. And when we start to lose really the grade quickly, we've suggested that we'll remove that deck there. And I thought that was good of them to agree to that. And also the deck above, I call it the 3rd story, since we consider the basement level a 1st story. And that's what created this a 2nd story deck, so that's why we've asked to remove it. We feel that basically the grade as it comes through here is pretty severe. It drops down at about the same slope as the steps, and we feel that they basically feel like they're on grade, and we would have another opportunity here to buffer with landscaping on their property. That's what we think the benefits are there of that. And we're asked to provide some light and some ventilation into the family room, which is basically buried here, and that's why we've introduced those 2 windows into this area. And I believe we're going to, when we visit the single-family design board again, we've engaged a landscape architect, and we're going to be coming up with some hedge material and some other trees and buffers here. So we actually believe that these will sort of be buffered and really just pull in the sky above, so you'd really never be able to look through them from the house below. I mean above, excuse me.
Yeah, I pulled the plans for the duplexes that are under construction, which
Yes.
they've stopped right now next door, just to get an idea of what's occurring on their property in this area. So in this area, there's stairways and their entrance to their house. So
Yes.
I don't know if the first-story windows, if they would, because they're down lower.
Yes,
if
they
it
are.
would-
And if we introduce the hedge material here, I think we've filtered that view. We had previously suggested a wing wall that came out here and went this way in order to provide a little more privacy, but because it was an improvement in the setback, we were swayed away from that. So.
Okay.
The one thing, we were engaged to do the, ignorance is obviously not a defense, but we were engaged to do the remodel, and we worked on it for months before the survey had been completed, and we found out, all to our surprise, that we were in the setback, and so then we went back and rethought, and hence some of these modifications in order to, hopefully appease the rules here that we have. So
Okay.
I appreciate your time.
Sure. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 1562 La Vista de Oceano? No? We have received 3 letters, 4, there was one attached to the staff report regarding this project. Ms. Paula Westbury was in opposition to the project. There's Jody Anders and Eric DeHoker, or Hoker.
I believe so.
They are immediately adjacent and above the site, and they
Yes, this is their house.
are supportive of the modification to grandfather in the house in its current location. Well, that's this one too. Okay, so it's 2 copies of it. So actually, then this is the same letter. So there's 3 total, with that one that's attached to staff report from Ed and Darlene Tebow, and they are in support of the project.
They live, I believe,
Oh, and that's it.
over in this area.
I went out to the site, and you're in the middle of a major construction zone. Everywhere the road's gone, or is it being repaved? Because there's a manhole out here. Out here.
Well, they're finally making this improvement in connecting La Vista del
All the way up.
Oceano all the way up. And
And then constructing here. and
did you
then-
notice the new wall here, the new stone wall, which was done before the survey, is after the survey was completed? Yes, indeed. And then the foundations are just sitting there. The bank has assumed ownership at the moment. And I've heard from several. We happen to be the architects for that project.
Oh, okay.
Through serendipity, it was some of the drawings here that got us this particular job here, so for whatever that's worth. So hopefully there's going to be some action here pretty soon on that.
Right.
So we keep telling them their neighborhood's going to be great when it's all done.
I was wondering, how do they get to their house? Do they? Yeah. So, but so in regards to what you're requesting today, is the windows, new windows, a stairway, the roof staying the same, and everything, just windows, stairways, and okay. And then for this deck here, this is all one level, this area here, right? So you're proposing you come down here and you come down here?
Actually,
It looks like I'm looking at it.
yes. We've. Can I continue to speak about this?
Yes.
The single-family design board. We had this deck here at one time, and they asked us because of the new second-story guidelines to have the deck 15 feet away from the property line. We went ahead and shifted it over here, and that gave us the opportunity. We introduced these steps. Well, my clients did not like. She desires to turn one of the garage bays into an exercise area, and this inhibited her view. So the design has been modified somewhat. There is not another set of stairs here. The jacuzzi sets down a little bit differently, and the deck shifts over even farther. So there's only one set of steps that runs down here at this point in time.
So is it a 3-car garage?
2.
because you need to have 2 covered parking spaces, so she can't change it into the,
Well, okay, then I'll tell her that.
yeah, the requirement is 2 covered parking spaces for a single-family home, and they need to be open, accessible to parking.
Okay, well, I mean, it's an informal thing that she'd like to do, so I'll tell her that she can't.
Yeah, it'd be a zoning violation.
Yeah.
The other part, I reviewed is these plans, so if there's changes to them, my actions are on these plans.
I thought you were concerned with only
I-
the areas that are desired for the modification.
Okay, yeah. And my findings is that the requested modification is necessary to secure an appropriate improvement on the lot, and is consistent with the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. And so when I look at this, I see that there is other options to get from the grade level down to the first floor without having to be in the setback over here. So I have concerns regarding the stairway in the setback. I don't have concerns. I understand the misfortune of the house being pushed back, and with the survey, it's noted that it's in the setback. I can support the modification to allow the house in the setback and those windows. It's the stairway that I have concerns with.
Can I
And-
show you the new scheme? Is that allowed? Or do I have to come back for a new meeting?
Certainly. That may show it would be providing the only means of access to the lower level from.
You can show them to me and I can look at them. The other is the new scheme. There's also paving up into the setback here, and we don't allow parking in the setback.
That was noted in the design board meeting, and we're going to pull it back.
Okay. I don't have that information in front of me, so
Yes.
I review the plans I have, and so that's my comment on that. But if you'd like to pull out the other plans, that's fine.
I can show you where we are now with that?
Yeah.
It's probably the best to look at now. What she had me do was to push the deck all the way. We didn't like it architecturally, the balance of it. And what it ended up doing, this maybe helps too, we ended up pushing that deck all the way in front of the living room. And it just seemed to balance better. It didn't, before it was sitting sort of between these areas here. So what we've done is we've suggested pushing this down over here. We're going to step down here, and then we step down to the jacuzzi, and then that's all. There aren't any steps, and then there's some retaining walls that help build that up and soften it on the slope. So they're very, very adamant about having this opportunity to go downstairs here. And I don't know. Bill Mahan gave me the impression that the board supported that. I think it's in the minutes.
Well, they
and
review for design issues.
I
And what would
understand.
keep the stairs from moving out of the setback?
Excuse me?
What would
Because
keep you?
they're very angry about having to remove this deck. I'm trying on behalf of my clients. I'm trying to, get them the best option I can. So we feel that we've provided an opportunity to buffer these with landscaping here. We're going to remove these, which are actually on the other side of the property at some point in time, and provide some better buffering. And I was under the impression that steps on grade were allowed in the setback.
These aren't on grade, are they? They're elevated.
Well, they're nearly on grade. 10 inches, I believe, is the.
Then they don't need a mod. If they're less than 10 inches in the setback, that's
then,
allowed.
Then it's a moot point we're arguing about at the moment, isn't it? think.
I don't feel I'm arguing.
Oh, okay.
I'm asking
sorry.
questions.
I'm just a little concerned that from your comments that Anyway.
Well, no, it's the findings that I need to make. The
Yes,
findings.
I understand.
And so if there is, just because a person wants something does not mean you can make the finding. We need to look at it, and is there a conforming option on the site that does not require a modification? And so looking at those plans, there is other options. But now you're telling me that these steps are less than 10 inches in height, so they don't even need a modification. So the only thing I'm looking at is to allow the house to remain where it is and the
Okay.
windows.
Okay. I understand.
So that's fine. That, I don't have a problem with that. My initial comments was based on the fact that there was conforming options available. And in this instance, the conforming option is actually lowering them so they, step down the grade. So you're correct. In this one that is on grade going down, that's allowed.
Even if it's off the property line?
Well, no. Zoning it is. You
Yes.
need to work with the neighbor and get the
Yes.
easements and all that kind of stuff. That's a separate issue. But in terms of zoning on grade steps, that's why staff was not requiring you to get a modification for this.
Because it's on grade or below?
Yeah, or below grade, yes. So
Yes.
that's fine. That's allowed. Although some people may consider it an encroachment or an obstruction, it's not open from the ground up. It is something that's allowed. You can do that. So with those changes, I can support the project. This project here, we would note on the plans, and could we keep these? Or were you not?
Yes.
going to? That
Yes.
these steps would not exceed 10 inches above existing grade.
As it flows through. We'll make sure that finished grade, because the existing grade is a deck at the moment.
Oh,
So they're below the existing grade. So
well, we'd work with Roxanne
Yeah.
on that.
We know how to represent it
Yeah.
on the plan so that they are not a structure like the previous plan. The plan we're looking at
Okay.
represents.
Okay.
So yes, that is.
We'll make
that's-
that work.
Yeah, it says that. So then.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I approve your project as revised here at the hearing. But I need to make changes to the findings, though. I'll just read it for you so you can understand. So the staff hearing officer finds that the modification is consistent with the purposes and intent of the zoning ordinance and is necessary to secure an appropriate improvement on the lot. So that's the statement. The modification allows for legalization of the existing building's location within the interior setback, which is this portion here,
Yes.
and allows minimal changes to window openings to provide passive solar lighting to the lower floor area. So those are your windows. And then, since the deck's on, or since these are on grade, or close enough to grade, they don't need that mod. So that last part where it says "and relocates," just strike that. Then, I don't know how detailed. In regards to just this paving, I'm just going to say that the parking will be, or the paving within the setback, something to the effect that this area here, that the pavement will end at the property so that that parking's not within the setback.
And
And then just that those exterior stairs will be less than 10 inches above grade.
can I speak? Or
Yes, no, that's fine, yes.
We've introduced some ballards here. Is that against the rules here?
And that's just open? This is just landscaping stuff?
Yes.
No, that's fine, that's
And
fine.
so here's the land, that's the end of their parking.
Yes,
absolutely.
And
Yes.
that was the idea that
Okay.
we were going to propose there.
Well, I'll stamp
And
this
here's,
plan, so we don't need to put that condition. I'll just stamp this
Okay.
one right here because it shows it's out of it.
Here's the existing curb right here.
Okay.
That's, we're going to be removing and creating the barrier basically there.
And the curb will be replaced here, or it's just the paving stops? And it
Paving
just goes?
stops to, I don't know if you see little shadows on there, but the intent is for these to have little rise in them so you can't drive past them, little stone pillars.
Okay.
And then we're going to really landscape heavily in here. So,
Okay. Yeah, and then just the note that the parking, 2 parking spaces is required.
yes, covered, and, well, just that has to be enclosed covered, or can it also, could they just happen to slip a car under the deck if that be considered covered?
It
We're not
depends
creating a
on what's the
carport.
FAR.
Yeah. We're not trying to create a
85% is
carport.
one covered, one uncovered?
That's all, that area is covered though with the deck, the upper level deck. So I mean, technically this could become the carport, and then this could be habitable space.
If she wanted to put an exercise, a bicycle in there and
Yeah.
whatever.
What I would recommend is then you work with either counter staff or the zoning plan examiner, or Roxanne might have some time
Right.
to make sure that the parking that is provided meets the code.
Okay. Okay.
Because, yeah, given the fact this is covered, we may be able to determine that that is a carport versus, and then
Then if she really wanted to do that and use it for an exercise room, she'd have that opportunity.
yeah. And I'm not telling you that right now because
Yeah,
I
I
don't have
understand.
enough
You
information
don't-
and all. But, work with staff on that one.
Okay.
So in terms of your building, leaving the building, as is, and the new windows, that's approved. And
Thank
then
you.
just the stairways to be less than 10 inches. Great. So,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. And they also have oversight authority of all my actions, like I said, on the other two projects. And if there was appeal filed or the Planning Commission called this up, Ms. Milazzo would contact you. Okay?
Okay.
So I adjourn the meeting.